Rain hammered against the windows of the hospital room, but inside, silence was louder than the storm. The monitors beeped faintly, each sound like a countdown to something inevitable. Margaret Hale, the youngest self-made CEO of a Fortune 500 company, lay pale and frail on the bed. Her empire stretched across continents, yet here she was, fragile, fading, and utterly powerless. Doctors had tried everything: experimental treatments, endless transfusions, prayers whispered by strangers in the waiting hall. But nothing could reverse the rare blood disorder eating away at her life. For the first time in her 39 years, Margaret realized money couldn't buy what she needed most: time. And sitting outside her room, a man with calloused hands, haunted eyes, and a little girl asleep on his lap had no idea that fate was about to pull him into her story. His name was Daniel Brooks. A single father, a decorated war veteran, and a man who carried scars far deeper than the ones the world could see. Daniel Brooks had been through battlefields before, but nothing compared to the silence of waiting in a hospital hallway. His 4-year-old daughter, Emily, had curled up against him, her tiny breath rising and falling softly, unaware of the heaviness pressing on her father's chest. Daniel wasn't supposed to be here. He had come to donate blood for a local drive organized by veterans. Something small, something that made him feel useful again, after years of drifting between jobs and grief. Losing his wife 2 years ago to cancer had left him hollow. Nights were long, filled with nightmares of war and memories of her smile. Emily was his anchor, but even she couldn't fill the void where love and purpose had once lived. As he sat there, filling out forms, a nurse burst through the door. "We're losing her," she cried. "The CEO, Margaret Hale, none of the transfusions are working. We can't find a compatible match." Daniel didn't pay much attention at first. He'd heard the name Margaret Hale on television. Iron Lady of the tech world, people called her. To him, she was just another stranger. But then, the nurse's words echoed in his ears: no compatible match. His eyes drifted to the dog tag still hanging around his neck. His rare blood type had saved lives overseas when he had shared transfusions on the battlefield. Could it matter here too? "Test mine," Daniel said, his voice low but steady. The nurse blinked, startled, then nodded and whisked away the paperwork. Minutes later, chaos turned into something miraculous. Daniel was the perfect match. His blood, the very lifeline that had carried him through bullets and broken nights, was now the thread of hope for a woman who seemed to have everything, yet was about to lose it all. Inside the dimly lit room, Daniel watched as his blood flowed through the tubes into Margaret's fragile veins. She looked lifeless, her lips pale, her breaths shallow. He whispered under his breath, almost to himself, "Hold on, don't quit now. I know what quitting feels like, and you can't go there." The words weren't meant for her, but for himself. For all the times he had almost given up, hours passed before the doctor finally emerged, his face carrying something Daniel hadn't seen all night. "Hope. She's stabilizing." For the first time in days, her vitals are strong. Daniel's knees almost buckled. He wasn't her family, wasn't her friend, wasn't even supposed to be here. Yet something deep inside stirred, a flicker of purpose he thought had died with his wife. Later, when Margaret's eyes fluttered open, Daniel happened to be at her bedside. She studied his worn face, the creases of sorrow and resilience etched into his skin. Her voice was weak, but steady. Why would you help me?" Daniel looked at her for a long moment. "Because I know what it's like to lose someone. And if I can keep that from happening, even for a stranger, I'll do it." She closed her eyes again, but not before a single tear escaped. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about stock prices, board meetings, or shareholders. She was thinking about a man who had given her something her billions never could. Another chance. Recovery was slow. For weeks, Margaret remained in the hospital, her body fighting to rebuild. The doctors were stunned at how her system responded to Daniel's transfusion. "It's as if her body recognized his blood as something it had been waiting for," one specialist remarked. But while Margaret's body healed, her mind unraveled. She had built her empire by shutting out vulnerability, burying heartbreak under endless work, silencing loneliness with noise. Now, forced to rest, she faced the hollowness she had run from all her life. Daniel visited often, partly because the hospital requested further donations, but mostly because Emily had grown fond of the lady Daddy helped. The little girl would sit by Margaret's bed, showing her drawings of stick, figure families, her innocence cutting,